Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting, Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019, 6:37 start instead of 6 p.m. in the McAuliffe Hearing Room. All members of the board are present except for Selectman Schifrin. First on the agenda is public comment. Okay. First up is a scheduled appointment, a 6:30 p.m. Class 2 license revocation hearing, Right Way Auto Sales, Inc., Town Council.
Madam Chair, members of the board, first off...
Need a mic.
A mic.
Oh, sorry.
First off, I'm going to file with you a supplemental notice that was served upon the individual license holder. He resided or resides in Hudson, and we utilized a Hudson constable to make supplemental service so that we have evidence that an attempted service was made twice, for the record, so I'll file that with you. This is a quasi-adjudicatory hearing. It affects a license interest, and it's very much like any kind of an administrative hearing, whereby if this individual was here with counsel, they would be given the opportunity to speak, but where he is not here, and if you wish to wait 5 minutes, that's your choice, but if you do not, then you would be taking the testimony of the police chief, and anybody who's to give testimony in these kind of hearings have to swear an oath. So I'm going to ask that the police chief, if you would please stand, raise your right hand, sir. Do you most solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this board, so help you God?
I do.
So noted, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Welcome, Chief Paulus.
Always great to be here. Nobody's a big Bruins fan tonight, are they? Very unfortunate situation. So we have a Mr. Souza, who's the license holder. We had a number of complaints come in. We started to investigate them. I think you saw my press release back at the beginning of the month. I think that we're only at 3 counts of felony larceny by false pretenses. Unfortunately, we are now up to 11 counts of larceny by false pretenses, over $1,200. There's 3 additional cases that have been screened out, being civil in nature, things like they bought a warranty from him and he's no longer in business, that type of thing. The total approximate value of the to the victims being defrauded is now up in the area of $118,710. We tried to reach Mr. Souza when these complaints started coming in, going to his address in Hudson, sending the Hudson police over there. Right about the time I issued the press release, we had gotten a warrant from the court, and then he ended up showing up in court on his own with his lawyer. Didn't want to speak to us from there. So that's what we have right now. They're still continuing to trickle in. I'm aware that Friday we got another complaint. Also like to let you know that there's no town residents involved at this point.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No. All right, Chief Paulus, thank you. Discussion? Nope. All right. Town Council, so what would the, just to make sure we do the appropriate motion to revoke the license?
Correct. The motion, the correct motion would be...
Close the hearing first.
Closing the hearing.
Close the hearing.
And entertaining a motion to revoke the license based upon the evidence submitted.
Okay. Do I have a motion? I'm sorry, Mrs. Vaniff, go ahead.
Does the individual own the property?
To my knowledge, he does not. He's a tenant. That's my understanding.
Is there a tenant in the property that will still have access to the property? If we're not, are we locking up the building? I guess that's my question.
No, at this time, the property owner...
Oh, can you go to the, sorry, Mike.
As far as I'm aware, the property owner's taking control of the building. In fact, the vehicles that were still on the property, they're fronted by a company called Next Gear Capital. On April 3rd, right after the warrant came out, there was a sign on the door, business closed. And the vehicles that were remaining on the property, they came and repossessed all of those vehicles back from the property. And we've been doing our best to put some of the victims in touch with this company to maybe pursue the titles of the vehicles or whatever has to be done, through the courts to try to possibly make them whole. But that's what's going on right now.
Okay. Thank you.
I also know that the fire department's been in touch with the owner of the property about what they're storing there and whatnot and who's responsible.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we also have a motion to revoke the license for White Way Auto Sales based on the evidence presented to us here tonight?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Chief. Okay. And don't leave, Chief. Next up, an update from Chief Paulus on a ride-along grant program. Welcome, I'm excited to hear more about this. Sure. I believe it's on. Yep.
So yeah, this is a very, really good thing that's come to the department, and actually Framingham has been using it for years. They were kind of the pioneer in the area. And just, it's called a jail diversion program. So I think years ago, maybe they should rename it a little now, so, it's no secret. Most of our calls come from either people that are having some type of mental illness or drug and alcohol addiction. And the way to maybe deal with that in the past was there was nothing you could do, so they were, causing such a disturbance in the neighborhood, or we'd go repeated times and then we'd had no option. They'd be charged criminally with something. We try to get them in the courts and have the court order some type of treatment. They've been taking a different approach to that, where we have an advocate who has mental health training, and then they'll ride with the officers. They're involved in the community, and they'll go, and this is immediate triage for those people. So we want to avoid taking them to jail, and we want to get them services right at that moment, and then we want to do follow-up. So that's what this is. In some of the bigger communities, like a Framingham or a Marlborough, they have a full-time advocate that works with them. So great model. They've been partnering up with towns, so this will be the boroughs, so it'll be Westboro, Northborough. Just right next door, Ashland, Hopkinton, and Holliston have their own program going, which has been very successful. I just went to a chiefs meeting. This is the new hot item where the smaller communities are gonna be partnering up to get these mental health clinicians out there. So I gave you some information. I gave you a video to watch. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at that. And I've also put Sergeant Newell as the liaison to the program. So it's taken a while to get off the ground. So we have to show interest, and then we had to apply for the grant. We have to show our statistics. And then once the grant came in late November, early December, they had to find a clinician to service our area. So that's taken a little while, and they finally chosen one. She has a great background, master's degree in social work. She's worked at a number of different places. Name is Christina Fenton, and then she will start actually on the 29th. And we'll share her. She'll rotate days, Northborough, Westboro, Southborough. But the great thing is, if she's working somewhere and we have a need for her services, we'll just meet at the line, we'll transfer her over, she'll take care of the problem, and then we'll go from there. We'll set her up with some office space. We'll have to look in the old building, but she'll have access to a computer, and then not only on the scene, but if we have other calls, she'll be able to follow up. And then I also plan to, I mentioned it to Youth and Family Services quite a while ago now. Like I said, it's taken a while to get off the ground, but we will introduce her down there, and, she'll be a resource, for whatever our needs are as a department and a town. So it's a great program, and if you have any other questions, I'll open it up to Sergeant Newell.
That's wonderful. So this is completely funded by a grant?
Yes.
There's no cost to the town or the
None
taxpayers whatsoever?
Yep.
It's really a great program. If I can just ask, so stepwise, if you did arrest somebody and you did take them to the station potentially, I know at some point, if they may need to be evaluated, you'd have to transport them to the hospital. I'm just trying to, if you could just maybe touch on the steps that this program, the benefit of this program might actually take a step, and it would actually save time for our officers as well. So if you could just touch on that.
Exactly that. They can do an in-cell assessment of a prisoner, which is, in the past, we've had to, transport the prisoner to the hospital, which uses up manpower, taking officers off the road.
Yeah.
And now, with her available to us, she can do the assessment right inside the cell, and it saves us the cost of the ambulance, the manpower issue. It's a good diversion program.
That's wonderful. Chief, do you know how long Framingham approximately has been using this program?
If you noticed in that video, it was 2011.
Well, I thought, I didn't know how much before that it may have been.
I'm not sure, I'd imagine right about that time. But
Okay.
they were the pioneer of it, and it's actually become almost a national standard for what they established, and they've had great success with it. And I think the goal is, we don't want repeat service, so you want to get the person the services that they need, so, we don't have to go back.
That's great. I think it's a great program. Thank you for, working so hard to bring this to Southborough. I think it's going to benefit all the boroughs, for it, so thank you.
Great.
Anyone else?
Yeah, just, so you'd mentioned the cost of this is covered through the grant.
Yes.
Is this person an advocate's employee, though?
Yes.
And that is how advocates
Yes.
pays that person's
All the
salary?
insurance, everything is covered through advocates, nothing to do with the town. Injuries or anything like that, she's covered under her own, under the advocates program.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So, neat program, gentlemen, so thank you. So, is the clinician, just trying to understand how this works in practice, is she will be at the police station, have a workspace, and then if a call comes in, someone, like, she's not physically riding along all the time. It's only when a call, now, does someone then need to leave wherever they are, come back to the station, get her, then go, is there a timing issue that could be a challenge if it's a significant matter that it takes another 10 minutes to get to the station and then over to a resident's house, for instance?
It would be in that instance, if she was at the station, but the goal is when she's assigned to Southborough, that she actually rides for most of the shift with the officers. She'll have a bulletproof vest and everything. She'll ride right along with the officers, and you get a hot call, they go right to it. And she's trained and indemnified, and, the officers know, if something's, she's gonna stay in the car. Or they would drop her off if, God forbid, it was a really serious call. But, once an officer gets on scene, even if she's in Northborough, Westborough, they would, call for her services, they would come over, or somebody would go grab her at the station and come to the scene and, try and provide service from there.
Okay.
she's had about 5 weeks of training up right now. She's been training with Framingham and Marlborough, going on a variety of different calls with them, and they're obviously active towns, so she's getting some exposure to different types of calls.
And she obviously then has identification on her, just like you would, so that visibly someone's gonna be able to see through some identification, this person is a registered clinician, and,
Right, we
Yes,
would make a
correct.
scene safe, and then bring her in to help with the, if it was a mental health issue.
okay.
So we would be there first, and then she would be our backup to handle that kind of type
Okay.
of calls.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
And especially for families or things like that. If you'll read that in your own time, but she can help with everything. So if somebody needs commitment to the court for drug addiction, she could even help out with, serious scenes where death notifications or where, something was traumatic, so she can get the ball rolling right away. We don't have to wait 2 or 3 days or try and find the people. She's gonna make that contact right away.
Thank you.
Mrs. Faniff?
I think it's great. Back to one of the questions that Mr. Kalenda had. Identification, will it be an advocate identification, or will it be the town of Southborough Police Department identification?
I'm not totally clear on that, because she
Okay.
hasn't started yet, but she'll have something, I'm sure, in the winter we'll provide her with her, do believe they said she gets some type of a jacket, a windbreaker or something, and then in the summer, so, yeah, I do
right.
recall at the meeting that she's provided with some kind of, outward labeled.
All right, as long, I think a level of comfort comes with the fact that recognizing something that might be familiar, that I'm here as a representative of the town of Southborough Police Department. Advocates, some people might look at it differently right from the beginning, so it's just a suggestion. The waiver of liability, has town council looked at that waiver at all? Even though it's accepted by other communities, and I know it's probably very general, but has anyone looked at it for the town of Southborough to see if there's any concerns that we might have?
No, but I can get that done in short order.
I would suggest you just,
They're in a number of different towns, so I'll see what standard that they have, and I will run it past them.
you'd want town council just to review it, to say, looks good.
Okay, we
Okay.
will do that.
Thank you.
The program is about 16 years old, and there's about 15 communities that are using the program now. Every surrounding town around us is using the program, and there are actively 8 crisis counselors that are riding along with officers through this program, so.
I'm just suggesting that because it's always good to have the original copy on file, and if there are any changes and we weren't made aware of them, we still have the original as to what our commitment was and their commitment.
Okay. We've also, luckily, we've been involved in it. We've had some incidences where we've had to use them, and they've graciously sent over their advocate from Marlborough or Framingham to help us out. So we've been involved with the advocates, since probably the last 8-9 months.
That's great.
And one alibi, if I may?
Yep.
So hypothetical then, so the clinician is riding along, the officer stops someone, the officer then is in distress for whatever reason. What does she do? Is she trained not to do anything, as if she's not even there? Is she trained to, can she offer assistance to that officer? Can she use the radios? I mean, what happens in that, if that unfortunate situation occurs?
She is a civilian riding along, so I don't think anything's expected of her to give assistance or anything, and she doesn't have any training, and
If she
any of
does,
that.
is there any liability for the department, for her, for advocates, for the individual, the police officers trying to?
And what the program was described, they've never come across that situation, so.
Mr. Shea?
Yeah, just one quick follow-up. So is this person's hours going to be scheduled based on, like historic times when you typically need this person's services, and is the person available on call if needed as well?
I believe right now she's scheduled 1 to 9, so she'll see some of day shift and then, night shift right into the evening, so. And then if you have a situation, she can flex her hours.
Okay.
So, right now we have it on a rotating basis. Of course, each town is fighting to get a little more of her time, so I think the call volume will shake out.
Okay.
But the 3 towns, the 3 chiefs, we all have to work cooperatively to share her service.
Great, thank you, Chief, and I think it was a great conversation. Town council is still here, so, he was able to hear some of the questions as well, and I know that you'll be very quick to get with him to get
I
them
will follow up
answered.
first thing in the morning.
And just one final thing, when do you anticipate the program starting?
April 29th.
It is April
She's
29th.
starting.
Okay, that's what I thought, I wasn't sure. April 29th.
I think it was scheduled for the 22nd, but they moved it out 1 week.
Okay, that's great. Again, thank you so much for all your hard work in getting this here and, giving another avenue to the citizens as well as, the department on being able to get things done in a timely manner. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, next up, Town Administrator's Report. Ms. Hale, do you have anything?
I do have a couple of things. Wanted to let you know that we heard from Town Council, actually earlier today, that regarding Mr. Jelly Priscoli's process with Fayetteville Village Hall, that he has moved through the Conservation Commission and Board of Health permitting process and will be filing with the Planning Board in the next few weeks. So that's moving along nicely. Also, just a couple of other quick updates on some staffing matters. We have posted the position of Recreation Director. As you know, Mrs. Ferguson is retiring after many years on June 30th. We have over 125 applications already, so we're moving through review of those applications with some members of the Recreation Commission and hope to bring an appointment to you at least by late May or early June. Just a reminder for the audience that the candidates debate will be at the library this year, May 2nd at 6:30 p.m. On Main Street process, I wanted to let the board and the public know that we've added a new function on the town website where residents could keep up to date on the project and traffic advisories, et cetera. So if you sign up for the listserv capability on the website, there's a new checkoff box for Main Street. If you've been on the listserv before, it won't automatically go to your email, so you have to go back and check Main Street because that's a new category that we've just added. But we're trying to make sure the public has as much information as possible about the entire Main Street project. And since Election Day is coming up, just wanted to remind folks that the deadline to vote by absentee ballot would be the day before at noontime. So Monday, May 13th at noon is the deadline to vote by absentee ballot.
Do you know, will they be having early voting this year? Have you heard?
I have not, but I will check on that first thing in the morning. Have not heard the clerk talking about setting up for that, so I don't think it's in place for the town election, but I'll verify that.
Okay, it'd be good for the public to know either way.
All right, thank you very much. Chairman's report. Just a couple things I wanted to mention, that the unfortunate passing of Constance Claire Maida. She served for over 2 decades in the town clerk's office. She saw residents through elections, births, marriages, and deaths, and her son is a dispatcher at the police department, so we thank her for her years of service to the town of Southborough and send our condolences to the family as well. I wanted to let the board know that I had the opportunity to participate in the Community Read Day at Finn School. I meant to mention this at our last meeting. Wonderful group of kids. Got to read a dinosaur book. It was great, so very much appreciated, and I was very glad to be able to go and do that. Also, just for the board to note that SOLF's annual meeting is May 4th, and it's going to be, I saw you had the flyer, can I just say?
Forgot about that, yes.
I meant to
Here
bring
it
it, and I didn't. It's going to be at the historic 1812 Deacon Webster Johnson House on Lynbrook, and they're going to be celebrating, I guess, that they've acquired some parcel over there. So that's just a heads up for the board. And lastly, it's with great pleasure I share a little news about the unofficial mayor of Southborough. Miss B. Ginga was selected as the Commonwealth's Unsung Heroine for 2019. She just received notice on this, so on Tuesday, the 18th of June, she'll be going into the State House to receive her award. So please join me in congratulating her, and any member of the public that may hear this as well. When you see B around town, as we all do, please congratulate her on her wonderful service that she's given. So
Great
just
to hear. Well done, B.
wanted to share that, and that's all I have. Do we have anything under members' reports?
I
Mr. Shea?
will update the board. We did have a meeting with representatives from MBTA. It was just after our last meeting. We met at the State House. Representative Dykema, Senator Eldridge was there as well, representatives from their office. They were able to get a number of top executives from the MBTA to meet with us to discuss the Southborough train station. The good news is that they have committed to immediate improvements on a lot of the aesthetic things that were brought up. Just cleaning up of the site, concrete deck repairs, some of the things that they can get onto right away. They committed to doing that. We had a fairly lengthy discussion about adding some sort of a way to cross over the tracks so that a westbound train, that people getting off the train could get over to the parking lot in an easier manner. They have definitely ruled out an at-grade crossing due to safety concerns, that is not something that they just can't entertain because of that liability. We did discuss some sort of a crossover stairwell elevator ramp type system, similar to what a number of the towns in this area have. And if we wanted to move forward with that, we could have further discussions with them. They would need to add that to the capital improvement program that they have. They warned us that it would probably not rank highly, that if you look at if they were to construct a ramp system, and the ramps would need to be ADA compliant with, length and, the slopes with landing areas, et cetera. If you looked at that total walking distance compared with the distance it is to go to 85 and then back up, that's not a whole lot of difference. Stairways would be shorter. That would require installation of an elevator for ADA compliance. So we can, I guess, if that's something that the town wants to pursue further, we can have further discussions on that and advise them that it's something that we do want, but that's something that they did not and could not commit to right away. But obviously good news that they are committing to improving the look of the station to help clean that up. So we should see improvements in that regard within the next few weeks or month.
That's great. Brian, did they, I know that parking's really tight over there. Did they address the parking at all at your meeting?
There were some other discussions about parking and some, potential areas where additional parking might be able to be offered. We can
Okay.
discuss that further as well.
No, that's fine. So it is something that they're looking at and
Yep,
pursuing.
they're
Okay.
aware of that, yep.
Mrs. Faniff?
On that topic, I was part of the original committee on the MBTA station. If there's any further discussion about a ramping system to get from one side to the other,
Yep.
that needs to be discussed at a hearing, a public hearing, I'm
Exactly.
suggesting, because they were concerned about the lights and everything else and the height.
Nope, and there's definitely a visual impact
Yeah, before it
to the residents in that area. There's
gets
definitely
too
that
far on the
impact.
train.
Thank you. Mr. Kalenda?
Just a quick note, we're only a little bit over a month away from Memorial Day, so just so the public knows, every Memorial Day, we have an outstanding parade, and would love to see more and more of our residents come. And the Friday before, which is on May 24th, we encourage residents to come out to the rural cemetery and help veterans and our scouts and others replace flags on all of our veteran grave sites. So that's also a wonderful event every year. So again, just encouraging the public to plan in advance to come join us for Memorial Day on the May 27th, and also to come out to the rural cemetery on the 24th and help out. I think it usually starts around 5 p.m. and I know all the selectmen have gone to it before. It's a great event.
It is. Great, thank you. And if you just suggest reminding us again
Oh,
at our
yes.
next meeting as well. Ms. Hale, you had one
Yes,
other-
I forgot our most important announcement, that next Monday evening at 5:30, we are having an installation ceremony for our new fire chief, Chief Achilles. That will take place at the Senior Center, starting at 5:30, and it's certainly open to the public, and we encourage them to attend.
Wonderful, thank you. We look forward to that. All right, consent agenda. Is there any items that anyone would like to have held?
I have one,
Okay, which one, Mrs. Faniff?
F,
F as in Frank?
yes.
Okay.
And rationale behind that, I think, since we have a new fire chief starting next week, I think we should allow him to have the opportunity to review this before we approve it.
Okay. And I'm going to hold A just for one change, and I'll supply that in writing to Ms. Berry. Mr. Kalenda, Mr. Shea, any additional holds? All right.
No, not for me.
Do we have a motion to reappoint Brian Stearns as veteran agent, term through 4/30/20, a one-day alcohol license request, Chestnut Hill Farm, 4/26/2019, 6 to 8 p.m. for Brew Moon Hike, accept individual donations to the library totaling $2,800 on behalf of Mr. John Wilson, accept donations totaling $1,100 to fund Southborough Youth and Family Services, sign warrant for 2019 annual town election, appoint business assistant part-time to the Zoning Board of Appeals, accept Tim Martell's resignation from Community Preservation Committee, and accept Connell McNamara's resignation from Open Space Preservation Committee for discussion.
Second.
All in discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Back to item A, approval of meeting minutes, April 2nd, 2019. The only change I have is on the second to the last page, when we spoke about the pilot program. Mr. Litt had reached out to me, just a little change to the verbiage to make his point that he was trying to make clearer and how he interpreted it. So I have that from him. I'll provide that to Katie. It's just adding a couple words, is all it is. So that's the only change I had for that. So do we have a motion to approval of meeting minutes April 2nd, 2019, as amended?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And item F, sign MOU between SEMA and Pilgrim Church. Do we have well, we can just hold that, actually. We don't even have to.
Next
Hold for
meeting.
the
Next
next
meeting.
meeting.
Yep, okay. Okay,
As long as, yeah, let's just obviously make sure that he gets that so we can do it next meeting,
absolutely.
you know?
And lastly, other matters before the board, assigning care and control of 0 Kimberly Lane. I provided with 2 maps. This was the parcel that we took accepted at town meeting in lieu of foreclosure. And initially, when this parcel came up, there was a group of us here from the townhouse that had went and walked it. Mr. Ballantyne, Mr. Sabelli, Beth Rosenblum, who was the conservation agent at that time, myself, I believe Open Space walked it as well. So just to get an idea of the value, now I did speak to the new conservation agent just to have her take a look at the parcel via the maps to see if they would potentially be any value that, that she saw. I mean, obviously, it would have to go before the commission to see if this was something to put under the care and control of conservation. So just so you're aware, on the first map where there's the pink road, that's a paper road. That road is not there. Currently, it's just an open piece. And if you go to the second map, you can see where all the wetlands are, and basically it follows the stream. And when you get further back to the larger, darker pink area, that's already protected open space under SOLF's control. So, again, my only point in bringing this up was to see, we have a few parcels sitting out there, such as this, that had been taken, and to see if the board would entertain asking the Conservation Commission if they would be interested in holding this piece of property under their care and control, if that's what this board has an interest in doing.
And what are the options?
At this point, there's other parcels too. The board could hold on to it, like we seem to do with some of the other ones. They could go to auction. But again, there's no access in or out of this parcel, and most of it's protected via the wetlands. And where it does abut, the stream that runs through it is a protected stream. It's a tributary to the Sudbury River, so it has value for the Conservation Commission. But as far as options, it would probably be just to hold on to it, like we do now, and it just sits there. It could be auctioned off, and, or it could go under the care and control of the Conservation Commission.
And what would they do with it?
Basically, they would have the stewardship of the property. They have care and control of, I believe, I want to say Breakneck Hill. I'm not 100% sure on that, though, Dan. I know there are a group of parcels that they have, and I know that at a future meeting, you're going to be getting other parcels here in town that have been taken in lieu of taxes, and some of them probably do have a value, you know, that the board could assess. I know that in walking it, most of the property down towards the bottom where the paper access is all wet. It's wet until you probably get, there's a huge sloping hill that abuts these neighbors here. So the only real access is through the stream or through this paper road, which, again, has to cross the stream to even be able to access the property.
So it would never be built upon? We could never sell it as a town?
Well, sure, you could sell it, but it wouldn't, I can't imagine how it would be able to be developed unless another one of these parcels maybe went for sale somewhere down the road, or even one of the residents wanted to do it and subdivide it and You know,
What's the advantage to having care and control by the Conservation Committee as opposed to us
doing nothing.
holding it? Yeah.
It just kind of gives it a protection base that, and again, the only reason I'm even bringing this up is based on the value of protecting the natural resources via the stream that's there, and you can see on the map, and the connection to other protected parcels. I think for me, in bringing it forward, that was the value to it, that it abuts protected parcels. It's a natural resource with the stream that is afforded protections anyway, being it's a tributary to the Sudbury River. And I just thought for conservation purposes, you know, they have other parcels such as this. I'd be happy to speak to Melissa and come back to our next meeting, table this, and
Yeah,
give you a list of some of the other parcels, just so you have a better idea. I can't
I think it
answer
would
that
help
today.
me be
Okay.
able to make a more informed decision as to what to do with it, and
Sure.
maybe, you know, if conservation is here, the chair comes, or.
Sure, we can
or
certainly do that. I'll supply
We
her.
identify what, okay, here's the three most likely options of what could be done with this. Here's the pros of each of them, and
Sure.
I don't know. I think that would be,
That's-
at least to me, that would be helpful.
And that's fine. That's why I brought it forth for discussion. I just didn't want it to just sit out there like some of these other parcels do is all.
How many acres are?
They total, there's two parcels. We just took it at town meeting. I don't
I
have
know, I
my
forgot.
book. I think it was just over 3 acres. One was like 1.5 and one was 1.78, if I'm not mistaken, but that's a guess.
All right, so if it was under the custody and control of the town, for town purposes, if one of the homes on Woodbury Road or Woodland Road
Mhm.
became available and was raised, then you would have access to it for another purpose.
You would, but just keep in mind, and there's a huge slope to this parcel from
Right.
where the stream is. It goes up. Sure, there is potential to, I would suppose, get access through one of the other homes if it was raised, yes.
Or if a home was bought and that became an adjoining piece to it. I'm just looking as a affordable housing rep.
Sure,
that
of course.
Maybe we need to look at what other options it could be used for.
Sure, absolutely. Okay. Again, this conversation was looking for some type of direction as
No, I think it's a
to,
great conversation.
you know, where we may or may not have wanted to go. Mr. Shea, do you have any?
Nope, I don't.
Okay, so what I think we'll do is I'll get some information from Conservation, Mr. Kalenda, and, you know, we'll bring it forth at maybe the next meeting or the meeting after, depending on how long it takes as well. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea, Mrs. Faniff, to have Shopsy come to that meeting as well and just have a real general discussion. And, you know, we can also do the same as we move forward. I think there's 5 other parcels right now
Okay.
that are, and actually 2 of them are in this vicinity. They actually show on this map, which is, totals much more acreage as well. So, okay, that's perfect. So for now, we have a direction.
I ask that you share the map with the chair of
Shopsy,
Shopsy.
absolutely. Yep,
And any other information on parcels that might be discussed.
absolutely. Yep, and what I'll do is I will forward, just for record, the other 5 parcels that I mentioned. I'll forward those to the board so you have the maps on those and so you can see them and you can also, for future discussions, have them as well. Yep, no problem. I actually have those. I'll have them scanned before we leave the townhouse today.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other matters before the board?
Just a motion to adjourn?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.